First Samuel 22. All right, another sermon where I got to figure out the title. It's a strange title. And so I had to think a lot about how to phrase this message and how to talk throughout it and how to title it. We're going to title it The Strange Thinking of Those Going Backward. My less reverential title is Don't Be Loony. Don't Be Loony. The Strange Thinking of Those Going Backward. 1 Samuel 22. I'm going to read a kind of lengthy passage, verse 6 through 16. When Saul heard that David was discovered and the men that were with him, now Saul abode at Gibeah under a tree in Ramah, having his spear in his hand, and all his servants were standing about him. Then Saul said to his servants that stood about him, Hear now, ye Benjaminites, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards, and make you all captains of thousands and captains of hundreds? That all of you should have conspired against me? That there is none that showeth me where my son hath made a league with the son of Jesse? And there is none of you that is sorry for me, or showeth unto me that my son has stirred up the servant against me, to lie in wait as it is this day? Then answered Doeg the Edomite, which was set over the servants of Saul, and said, I saw the son of Jesse come into Nob to Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub. And he inquired of the Lord for him, and gave him victuals, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. Then the king sent to call Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and his father's house, and the priests that were in Nob. And they came all of them to the king. And Saul said, Hear now, thou son of Ahitub. And he answered, Here am I, my lord. And Saul said unto him, Why have you conspired against me, thou and the son of Jesse, in that thou hast given him bread and a sword, and hast inquired of God for him, that he should rise up against me, to lie in wait as it is this day? And Ahimelech answered the king and said, Who is so faithful among the servants as David, which is the king's son-in-law, and goeth at thy bidding, and is honorable in thine house? Did I then begin to inquire of God for him? Be it far from me. Let not the king impute anything unto his servant, nor to all the house of my father, nor to for thy servants knew nothing of all this, less or more. And the king said, Thou shalt surely die, Ahimelech, thou and all thy father's house. Let's pray. Father, thank you for the chance to teach your word. Thank you for the wonderful truths of your word all over, inspired and errant, everywhere in the word that we can learn. Lord, we love your word. We love the truths. We love the wisdom they give us. We love the insight. We love the scripture, Father, and I pray that you would help us as we look into it, Lord. There's so many things to learn, so many great truths. But Lord, sometimes it's things we need right now, and sometimes it's knowledge we need for the future, and that's this message is. And I pray, Lord, you would give me the wisdom and speak through this message. Break through our hearts that might not see this, Father, because very few believe this and grasp this when they're in it. But help us, Lord. And Lord, I pray that your Spirit please pierce and speak and empower this message. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, this message is interesting because it's not a message I don't think people in our church need right now. I don't know who would need this message right now, but it's a message you will need, because you, at some point in your Christian life, the devil is going to make you loony, and you will be, no matter how smart you are, your thinking will not be straight. And in this story, I want to talk about this a little bit. And those who are going backward and those who are struggling, they sort of having thinking problems from them. You got to understand the story here. David had been told by Jonathan, my dad's going to kill you. And so they hugged each other and said goodbye. And David took off and went to the cave of Adullam, hid in the cave. And a whole bunch of people came to him. And all the people who were depressed and in debt and in trouble, and all these people came to David, became David's mighty men. Over 600 fighters and soldiers in the end were following David around, and plus all their families and stragglers and things like that. And David was basically going around the Philistine land, hiding out from Saul, and going from place to place. And so that is where David is. And Gilead is Saul. There's no Jerusalem yet. That became the city of David later on when he conquered it and stuff. And so Saul is with the tribe of Benjamin in Gilead, and he's at home. And David just disappeared. And so he knows that David's hiding from him. And so Saul starts asking everybody, where is David? In the process, David goes to this place a little north of there in the wilderness called Nob, a small town there. But there is the high priest, and the priests are living there. There's no temple yet in Jerusalem. Solomon builds that later. And there's the priest and all their family, and the priestly line is there. And David goes to the priest, and David's homeless. And David goes by there. Now, David is not doing everything perfectly. A lot of people miss that. David, between the time he runs from Saul and the time when he becomes king, he's doing some underhanded things a little bit. He shouldn't be joining with the Philistines, first of all, but he's going to them. He doesn't know where else to go, and he goes to them. And then he goes by himself, and he just kind of wanders up to Ahimelech, the priest there, goes up to where he is, and he goes to the priest and says, hey, I'm here. And of course, David was, as far as Ahimelech knew, because David was a right-hand man of Saul and was one of his chief soldiers, and everybody loved him, and he was really doing everything for Saul and running his errands and fighting his battles, and he was like a really right-hand man. And he says, wow, what are you doing here? He says, I'm in the king's business. It's secret, David says, which wasn't true. He was running. And David says, hey, you got some bread there. First of all, that's the showbread. This is sacred bread. David's not supposed to eat that stuff, but David's hungry. And David, being very convincing, and Ahimelech, not being a real strong character, lets David talk him into giving him this bread for his people and for them to eat. And then David says, hey, you got any swords or spears here? And he's all I have is Goliath's sword. He says, that's the best. Let me have that. And it's over there wrapped in ephod, part of the priest's garment. And so David goes and takes that, and off goes David. Well, there around that was a man named Doeg. He's an Edomite. He's not Jewish, but he's there with the priest and sees the whole thing. And Saul's back in his hometown, and it just so happens Doeg is there, and Saul says, hey, why doesn't anybody tell me where David is? Everybody love David so much and hate me so much, and nobody will tell me where he is and where my son has hidden him, and why isn't anybody helping me? And he goes into all that stuff, and so Saul calls. Doeg says no. He went to the priest, and the priest helped him and did all these things and helped him out, and so he calls him back. And he calls the priest there. He calls Ahimelech back to where he is and says, "What are you doing? Why are you taking care of David?" And Doeg says, "You gave him Goliath's sword, and you gave him bread, and you took care of him, and you inquired of God for him." Well, first of all that's not true. He did give him some bread. But he didn't know anything that David was doing. All Ahimelech said is, "What do you mean? He's your chief servant. He does things for you all the time. Why would I think he's hiding from you?" He doesn't know the whole story. He has no idea, obviously, what's going on. And he says, and he asks for Goliath's sword, and I gave it to him, but I didn't inquire God for him. And just understand, when you have the wrong people in the middle of something, they have truth in there, but they also have bad stuff. When there's conflict, be very, very careful who you involve in it. Because Doeg lied. He said he inquired of God for him and asked him what to do. Well, Saul's worried about that because God might tell David where to hide. I know that doesn't make sense, but as you read the story, it does make sense. And why did you inquire of God for him? He says, I didn't inquire of God for him, but Doeg lied about that. And so, and David's David's hidden, and so Saul's furious about this. Saul says something here that's kind of crazy, and we'll get that. And he calls him, and he didn't. Verse 22, it says this. If you look at chapter 22 and verse 10, it says this. It says, and he inquired of the Lord for him, and gave him victuals, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. He did not. He did not, in verse 15, it says, did I then inquire of God for him? And you just read the story in chapter 21, you see he never inquired of God for him. And he never did that. But Saul's not thinking straight. Saul's kind of crazy. Verse 13, it says this, and Saul said unto him, why have you conspired against me? Thou and the son of Jesse, and thou hast given him bread and a sword, and hast inquired of God for him, that he should rise up against me, to lie in wait as it is this day. Now, stop for a sec. Okay, so let's pretend Alex finds out I'm trying to kill him. Okay, and so Alex goes, and Alex runs off, and he hides at the blueberry farm. Okay, somewhere, and he's sitting there hiding under a bush eating blueberries, and I'm searching for Alex, trying to kill him. Okay, and all of a sudden I find out that Charlie has hid him from me, or he's been accused of hiding him from me. And I'm looking, and I'm going to search around. I'm going to look for Alex and look for Alex. I check at his house. I'm going to check everywhere. I'm going to check in the church. I'm checking at Wendy's. That's the first place I check. And I'm checking everywhere for Alex. And then all of a sudden I talked to Charlie, and I said, why did you help him? You guys are lying in wait for me. Is Alex lying in wait for me? Is he helping him lie in wait for me? I'm searching for him. I tried to kill him multiple times. And I'm accusing them of lying in wait for me. Do you understand how illogical that is? David is running from Saul because Saul's tried to kill him directly twice. He tried to make him go kill 100 Philistines by himself and tried to kill him that way also. And Saul says, you guys are lying in wait trying to kill me. It's a conspiracy. David's not lying in wait. He is running from you. But when you get mixed up and your thinking's wrong, you start thinking all kinds of crazy things and you see things wrong. I was driving down Highway 101 down in Oregon. And I was riding, I'm driving along, and I'm just going down Highway 101, getting about to Lincoln City. And so it's slowing down traffic. And on the side bike lane there is this bike. I'm I'm always in the right lane, I guess, the right side of the road. And except for when I'm not. And I'm riding the right side of the road here. And I'm watching this guy, and he's facing toward me. And I'm sitting there just coming toward him. And I'm not getting that close to him. And something just looks wrong. And I can't figure out what looks wrong. Something looks wrong. I just keep looking at this guy. And he's sitting there riding toward me. He's got a side mirror and a side mirror, and he's just sitting there pedaling, but I'm not getting as close to him as I should if he's coming toward me, and I'm going toward him. And finally, I get beside him, and I realize he's got this backward bike, and he's pedaling, and his bike is going backward. And he's looking in his rearview mirrors, but he faces this way, and he rides his bike, and his bike goes backward. And it was the weirdest thing. It was so wrong. You're going, what in the world? What is he doing? And every car, you just watch him going. Because he's riding and looking at his mirrors and just riding backward, facing towards you. Riding his bike. And I just kept looking and saying, what is... But it took me until I was beside him, I just knew something looked wrong. I felt like beside him, I go, he's going backward. That is fun. I want to go do that and watch the funny looks in everybody else's face, like that guy's doing, because it was the weirdest thing you ever saw, the backward bike. And I kept looking and saying, something looks wrong here. And this guy's confusing me. And everything was just wrong about the whole picture. And when you get with this point where you're not seeing right, you don't even know what you're seeing wrong. As a matter of fact, you think you're seeing right, but you're not. And the sermon, part of this sermon is what you have to do is to realize there are times when you get in a situation where you're seeing like Saul and you think somebody's trying to hurt you and they're trying to help you. You ever had your dog be injured and you're trying to help your dog and put something on the injury? Or your cat? And your dog thinks you're trying to hurt it? Or your animal? Or you're trying to take the sliver out of your child? And it seems like they think you're trying to hurt them, but you're really trying to help them. And when you're not right and your thinking gets wrong, you get loopy, like Saul was, and says, you guys are lying in wait for me. When Saul was going to spend years now following David around trying to murder him. He's so messed up. He's so confused. He does the wrong thing here. He ends up saying, hey, you know what? Because you conspired with David to lie in wait and try to destroy me and kill him. And Saul commanded his soldiers around to kill Ahimelech, the high priest, and all of his family, and all of the priests. Can you imagine that? It's so bad. Understand, the king could just say, you die. I killed him. But his own soldiers, his closest soldiers around him said, we're not going to do that. At risk of their own life, because that was so unthinkable. These unarmed priests, which were the ones who were supposed to be taken care of, they didn't get property. They were the ones that all of Israel took care of, and they were sacred. Can you imagine somebody saying, just kill those preachers? And he says, kill the priests. And even Saul's own soldiers said, no, we're not going to kill them. But then Doeg, the Edomite, says, I'll kill him. And he goes out and starts killing them and slaughtering all these priests who don't have any defense. And kills all of them in the end. Verse 18, the king said to Doeg, turn thou and fall upon the priest. And Doeg the Edomite turned and fell upon the priest and slew on that day 85 persons that wear a linen ephod. One priest escaped, fortunately, because it was a whole family. Remember, the priest had to be part of a certain family. He slaughtered 85 people of a family. The priest's family. Why? Because he was so messed up. And obviously, Ahimelech didn't have any idea. He was just, David came and he thought David was Saul's servant, which he always was. That's understandable. And it didn't really help him much. He gave him a sword and gave him some bread. By the way, interesting how if Ahimelech would have done what he should have done and said, no, David, you can't have this bread. He might have been able to say, Saul, you know what? He asked for bread. I didn't give him bread because it's God's bread. And it's amazing how a little compromise leads to a lot of trouble. Okay? But in the end, all of them were slaughtered by this one guy, Doeg. Don't ever name your kid Doeg. Okay? And he did that. Two things that make you think and see crazy is backsliding and bitterness. That's what Saul had. Backsliding and bitterness. Saul was chasing David all over and trying to murder him, and he's saying, David's lying in wait for me. What a crazy thing. But he wasn't thinking straight. Things you do when you are thinking crazy. I just want to give you some things that we do when you think crazy. When you're backsliding, when you're becoming bitter, you don't think clearly about people, and you will become suspicious. You will be messed up in your brain, and it will make perfect sense to you. That's what I want you to get. And very few people will say, this makes sense, but it's wrong. Very few of us. You ever just have a day where you're just grumpy about things? You're just really grumpy. You wake up wrong, you don't sleep right, you eat the wrong things, you do whatever, and all of a sudden you're just a grump that day. Do you ever say, you know what? This is so irritating, and these people are such, and I can't stand them, I can't believe them. And you know in your mind, you're going, I know I'm really grumpy today, but this really is real. You know, the next day, how you kind of think about it and you think, I don't know why I'm so upset about that. You ever do that? But in the process, you're saying, this seems like the biggest deal in the world. Next day, like, why did I react like that? Because you weren't thinking right, because you were cranky. You ever do that? No. Just Esther in the hallway and nobody else. Is that it? You know what I'm talking about? Where you know you're kind of cranky, but it makes sense at the time. Okay? And so, sometimes you're not thinking right. Sometimes, and you got to be able to say, you know what, I'm just grumpy. I just need to go. You ever say, I just need to go to bed? You all are driving me crazy. You're all nuts. So I'm going to go to bed. Where's my bottle? And because you know, man, you know what? Everybody in the world can't be this stupid. And so you decide, I'm going to go take a nap. And when you get up, everybody's not so bad. You understand? And so you go to sleep. And so you do that. So things you do when you're thinking crazy. Number one, you become reactive or overreactionary. Look at chapter 15. Or you giggle too much. 1 Samuel 15. Things you do when you think you're crazy. You become overreactive. Chapter 15. Watch Saul, because he's messed up in his mind. The Lord has left him his presence, and he has demons attacking him, and he just messed up. He overreacts to things. 1 Samuel 15 and verse 44. I'm sorry, chapter, let me find my verse. Chapter 14. I'm sorry, chapter 14 and verse 44 and 45. It says this, it says, and Saul answered, God do so and more also, for thou shalt surely die, Jonathan. Look, his son had just brought an incredible victory to his nation, and his son gets a stick, gets some honey in his mouth because he's so exhausted, and that kind of revives him. That's all his son did after getting a huge victory for Israel. And he says, son, because you ate that honey, you're going to die. Verse 45, and it says, the people answered, Saul, shall Jonathan die, who hath wrought this great salvation in Israel? God forbid. As the Lord liveth, there shall not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he hath wrought with God this day. So the people rescued Jonathan, that he died not. You see how Saul was loony, and the whole nation said, Saul, no, we're not going to kill your son. You're not going to kill your son. He's the king. But he was so overreactive, the whole nation said, no, we're not going to kill Jonathan because he ate some honey when he just did a great work for God. You see Saul's overreacting? And listen, when you're loony, when you're messed up, you overreact to things. You ever people overreact? You're like, no, it's not that big a deal. You ever say something and somebody takes it wrong and they make it like it's the biggest event in its entire world? I mean, you just some small thing, and they're going, yeah, I probably should have done that. They're going, no, you don't understand. And it's like you just went and, burned the White House down. And they're overreactive. Why? Because they're not thinking straight. And you can't even get them to calm down. And they just keep bringing one small event back up, and they just dwell, and they're just so angry about it. Why? They're overreacting. They're swinging too far. Because of one event, they just make it so big. Because you become overreactive when you are leaving the presence of God and becoming bitter, and you will make things bigger than they are and ruin relationships. Because you're overreactive. Saul, at the worst case, Ahimelech helped David. What should you do? Put him in prison for a year? That would be pretty serious. Maybe you're going to really go crazy and kill him. But kill the entire priestly line? 85 innocent people with no weapons who were the priests? Who go into the tabernacle, who go into the Ark of the Covenant and go do all the sacred things and take care of it. And who's going to light the candlesticks and who's going to do all this stuff? You're going to kill every one of them because he gave David bread and a sword. Relax. Saul, that's overdoing it. And even twice, notice, first time all the people said, we're not going to kill David. We're not going to kill Jonathan. No. Saul, no, that's not going to happen. Second time, kill him. And then all the soldiers go, no. Why? Because Saul was overreactive. When your heart is being turned against people who your heart is not supposed to be against, you will overreact to their mistakes and to their faults and to what isn't a mistake that the devil's making you think they're really doing this. And you've got to realize, when everybody starts saying, whoa, no, it's not that big a deal. Calm down. And you have a bunch of people say that. Then you need to say, you know what? This seems like this is the right response. But you know what? Everybody's saying that's overreaction. That guy cut me off. I'm going to ram him. They're going to light his car on fire. Then I'm going to kill him. And then I'm going to go to his house and kill his family. Whoa. Just chill out. But you know what you do? You overreact emotionally to people's mistakes. You won't let it go. You keep holding it against them. You hate somebody because of one fault, because of one bad day. And when you become wrong thinking, you overreact to people in situations. Number 2, you become very self-centered. When you are getting loony, when you are going backward and your thinking is getting wrong, you become very self-centered. Let's look at chapter 22 again. Saul's the king. Saul has hundreds of soldiers around him. He's a head taller than anybody in Israel. He is in charge of one of those powerful nations of the world. His life's good. He has wives and kids, and he has a good life, and he has a nation. He's been made king. He was just a little guy following mules a while ago. Now he's a king, and everything's pretty good except for one guy left. Watch this. In chapter 22, in verse 6, and when Saul heard that David was discovered, the men that were with him, now Saul abode in Gibeah under a tree in Ramah, having his spear in his hand, notice that, and all his servants were standing around him. He's surrounded by servants. Then Saul said to his servants that stood about him, "Hear now, you Benjaminites, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards?" He said, "I'm going to give you all fields and vineyards. I'm going to give you great treasures if you kill him, if we find him, and make you all captains of thousands of hundreds, that all of you should have conspired against me, and there is none that showeth me that my son hath made a league with the son of Jesse, and there is none of you that is sorry for me, or showeth unto me that my son hath stirred up my servant against me to lie in wait as it is this day." You see how he's kind of pouty? Here's a funny thing. My son has helped David. Why haven't any of you come and told me that? And why doesn't you feel sorry for me? You already know it. Right? You already know it. You just told us it. And nobody feels sorry for me. You're a king. Quit pouting. You're surrounded by soldiers. He left. Go say hi to your kids and bounce them on your knee. Relax. But Saul is self-centered now. Boy, you know, it's a weird thing. When someone starts backsliding, I'm not talking about an unsaved person, I'm talking about a Christian who backslides, and they're going backwards spiritually. All of a sudden, every single thing in the world pertains to how they are treated and how they feel. They never consider anybody else's feelings about me. I want this, and nobody thinks this, and nobody does this for me, and he did this, and she forgot about me, and they forgot about this. And all of a sudden, you're just looking. Let's see how many people remember my birthday. I'm not going to even tell them. And then you get this, you know what? Nobody likes me, and nobody just, and what about me? And you know what? That person, they get all the nice things. And what about me? And you know what? Nobody helps me, and nobody cares. Nobody says hi to me. And you're not doing anything for anybody else. You don't even know there's another human existing. You're like, hey, there's 7.5 billion people in this world. Why are they not making me happy? Because it becomes all about you. And I want to be happy, and I deserve to be happy, and I need people to make me happy, and I'm not treated fair, and I. And you know what you don't even do? You do not even consider anymore people you'll hurt if you do stupid things. Because you become the center of the universe when you're thinking wrong. And everything pertains to you. You wouldn't sit in a service and say, I hope that spoke to somebody's heart, and say, I wonder if he's talking about me. You know what? I was not as comfortable with that. Because the whole service is about you. There's pastor in the crowd, and are they making you happy? And everything's about you when you're thinking wrong. And all you can do is think about how it pertains to you and how you feel. You don't know if anybody else has your needs. You haven't thought about that. All you're thinking about is, am I getting what I want? When you're thinking wrong, it's all about you. And is it fair to me? And is it right to me? I. Number 3. When you are not thinking straight and your thinking's upside down like Saul, you are turned against the most important spiritual people in your life. Let's go back to chapter 15. Watch this. This is very fascinating because you watch it happen. The devil just knocks every important person that can help Saul out of his life. Chapter 15 and verse 20. It says, and Saul said to Samuel, yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Agag, the king of Amalekite, and utterly destroyed the Amalekites. And the people took of the spoil and did all these things. Samuel said, no, you haven't. If you go forward a little bit in this chapter when he disobeyed, verse 27, it says this, and Samuel turned about to go away, when Samuel went to go away, Saul, he laid hold upon the skirt of his mantle and ripped it. And Samuel said to him, the Lord hath also rent the kingdom out of your hand. Samuel's trying to help Saul and trying to rebuke him. And Saul's saying, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. And Samuel turns to go away and he grabs his coat and says, no, you can't leave. I mean, he grabs the prophet of God. And Samuel says, you ripped my clothes, but this is just a sign. Your king is ripped from you. Verse 35, and Samuel came no more to see Saul until the day of his death. First of all, he loses Samuel. Because he didn't obey Samuel. He didn't repent when Samuel talked to him. He got sassy with Samuel. And Samuel said, all right, enough of this. Because the devil loves to isolate you from those who can help you spiritually. From those who are most important in your life. The devil's going to begin to do that. Who is next? Jonathan, his son with such good sense, his son who's trying to calm him down, his son who's trying to point out, look, David is not against you. Chapter 20 and verse 32. And Jonathan answered Saul his father and said unto him, wherefore shall he be slain, David? What hath he done? And Saul cast a javelin at him to smite him. Whereby Jonathan knew that it was determined of his father to slay David. Oh, you think? Now listen. When your son says, Dad, David hasn't done anything, and you throw a javelin at your son, there are problems. Okay? Did his son say, I hate you, Dad, I'm going to kill you? No. His son said, what has David done? Whoa, Dad, whoa! Whoa! Okay, you're going to kill David. Talk. And so, look. Now his son, who's trying to keep him level, separated from Samuel, separated from David. Next, David. David's helping him. Chapter 16. We're just watching those who can help Saul. All the people who are his helpers, who are blessings, who are great people. He's beginning to be turned against every single one of them, one by one. Chapter 16, verse 23, and it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David picked up his harp and played in his hand, and Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. That's the guy who's helping him. We can read all the verses. You know the story. Chapter 18 and verse 5. And David went whithersoever Saul sent him and behaved himself wisely. And verse 27 and verse over and over and over. We can keep on reading all these verses. And David is a blessing. And David is helping get rid of the evil spirit from Saul. And Saul is throwing javelins at him because the devil is trying to get you away from those who can help you the most. It's your Christian parents. And all of a sudden the devil says, your parents, they're not really trying to help you. They're trying to ruin your life. Your parents, they really are. Stop. Your pastor, he's talking about you the whole sermon. Stop it. You're being, again, remember I said you get self-centered? You're all that matters. And remember, we talked about the arrogance of that. You think I'm sitting around all week while I'm studying for this sermon. All week long, all I did is sit around and think about you. I'm going to write the sermon about you. And that you're only on mind this. I'm just thinking about you all week long. It's not God blessed me and I was excited about the truth or anything. It's just I sat there and thought about you. How can I get them with the sermon? And you think that. Do you think maybe your mind is not thinking straight? And you're becoming the center of everything? And pastor's not, wait till Sunday. And maybe I'm just praying, Lord, want me to speak, and studying the Bible, and God just speaking to me, and maybe the Holy Spirit speaking to you. Maybe I've got 90 or 100 people that are hearing just a sermon. Maybe you got to realize, you know what? The devil's trying to separate me from that person because he can help me. And just notice that. You will think all the intentions of the people who can help you the most, Ahimelech could have said, hey, you know what? He wasn't trying to kill you. Or he could have said, hey, Ahimelech, why don't you pray and seek counsel of God for me and see if David's trying to kill me? But now he kills him. He's already tried to kill David and Jonathan. Saul won't come near him anymore. Everybody who can help him has now been removed from him. Now he's in trouble. Okay? I want you to get that. When your thinking's wrong, the people who love you, the people who want to help you the most, you will begin to suspect them and all their intentions. And you'll begin to think everything they're trying to do good is actually a bad thing. You'll misunderstand their attempts at being good, and you will not be able to see they even love you. And the only people who really love you are the people who are wicked and doing wrong. So you need to run to them. And that's what happens. You know who Saul ended up with? A witch. Okay? Why? Because the devil gets you where all the good people are all bad. So you got to run to somebody who understands. Next. And by the way, let me just say underneath that, you will know your thinking is wrong. Are you ready? In all this process of Saul begins chasing and trying to murder David, he when he's doing this, twice Saul sees clearly and understands David is not trying to kill him. It's almost like you're underwater breathing water, and all of a sudden your head comes out of the water and goes, oh, this is much better. Oh, that was good breath. Why was I thinking water was a good thing to breathe? And you, all of a sudden, when you talk to that person, novel idea, Bible says to do that, and they explain to you, no, I wasn't trying to say I hate your guts, I'm trying to kill you. No. And you talk to that person, and just for a moment you'll have sense, and you'll say, oh, they meant well. That's what they're trying to do. Oh, I misunderstood that. They really are good people. When you have that big breath, remember what that looks like, because there are times when you're going to go back under the water again like Saul did. Okay, let me show you that. Let's look at, let's see, chapter 24. Saul thought David's trying to kill me. He's lying in wait. So I'm looking around for him and stomping around the wilderness trying to find him because he's lying in wait trying to kill me. And so I'm going to do that. And chapter 24 and verse 17. And he said to David, thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I rewarded thee evil. And thou hast showed this day how that thou hast dealt well with me, for as much as when the Lord hath delivered me into thine hand, thou killest me not. David had Saul in a cave, dead to rights, could have killed him, and he didn't. And he showed him the clothing. I cut a piece of your clothing off, Saul. I could have killed you. He stood up there and said, look, Saul, I could have killed you if I wanted to. And Saul said, what am I thinking? What kind of person, when I've been chasing you around trying to murder you and you could have killed me and you didn't do it? I've been so wrong. Now you see for a sec, he sees clearly when he talked to David. Okay, happens again. Chapter 26. Again, Saul's dead asleep. God put a sleep on Saul and all of his soldiers. They're all chasing David, trying to kill him in the middle of the wilderness. They're so dead asleep from God that David walks down to the camp and grabs a spear next to where Saul's sleeping. And he stands up on the hill and says, Saul, wake up. And he says, Saul, it's me, David. Look, here's your spear right next to you. I could have killed you again. And what does Saul say? He comes up for air, sees logically. Chapter 26. And verse 21, and then said, Saul, I've sinned. Return thou, David, for I will no more do thee harm, because my soul was precious in thine eyes this day. Behold, I have played the fool, and have erred exceedingly. And David answered and said, behold, the king's spear, and let one of your young men come and fetch it, and the Lord render every man. In verse 25, and Saul said to David, blessed be thou, my son David, thou hast shall both do great things, and also thou shalt prevail. So David went his way, and Saul returned his way. You ready? When Saul saw clearly, he said, yeah, you know what, David, what was I thinking? And you know what Saul did? Went back down and said, that David, he's trying to kill me. And went back out and started trying to kill him again. But you see, when he talked to David and saw David, he said, David, you're right. I've sinned. I've been a fool. So in your foolishness, occasionally if you'll talk to the people, you understand they're not trying to ruin your life. They really are trying to do you good. These are good people. And you will see clearly. If you are wise, you'll say, oh, air is really good. I might go back into water. Let me remember, air is a better thing to breathe before I go back underwater. Let me remember this. I see clearly, and they're good people. I see clearly the devil's trying to separate me, and he always pits them against me and tells me they're just trying to be evil against me and trying to ruin me and that. And think I am being illogical. If you're getting angry during this message because you think I'm talking about you, you're probably thinking strange. You're probably loopy. You probably aren't thinking right. Because I'm not talking about anybody. I'm talking about the way people do that. When you're not thinking right, and the devil turns your heart against those who are the spiritual leaders and the spiritual helpers, the people who have good sense in your life, it doesn't make any sense. And I've had it with me, I've had the situation where I have been the person where all of a sudden I became evil and I changed and I grew horns and I got a big long red tail with a fork on the end of it. And I grew pitchfork, and instead of a Bible, I had a pitchfork in my hand. And I was the devil. And I'm going, what? You think I said what? You think I meant what? Because they're loopy. Like Saul. Because Saul was backsliding, going backwards, and becoming bitter and disobeying God. And so the devil said, I'm going to finish this job. Let me separate him from the people who can help him. Next, you try to manipulate what you can't get done in blessings. Let's go to chapter 28. This one's so powerful to me. And it's a little farther down the road, and it's a little hard to understand. But look, when someone doesn't walk with God and someone's doing the wrong thing, they try to become manipulators and sneak their way into the blessings that they would have if they just served the Lord. And they try to control everything. And they try to sneak and trick. And they will work so hard to get things they want and to make things work out. And it doesn't work. Because what they really need is just the blessing of God, and God will help them and fix their problems. But they are going to try to manipulate it. They're going to try to artificially make the blessings of God in their life through some other method of trickery, sneakiness, and everything else. And it doesn't work. Look, fake food is bad. Fake blessings are bad. Manipulated in the flesh. When you think okay, well, if I can't get God to do this, I'm going to do it this way. If I can't get my parents to do this, I'm going to do it this way. If I can't get this parents, I'm going to do it. And then you go do wrong. Thinking you're going to sneak and trick your way into the blessings of life. It doesn't work. Chapter 28 and verse 5. And when Saul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid and his heart greatly trembled. And when Saul inquired of the Lord answered him not. Neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. Then Saul said, where is that witch? I want to inquire at a familiar spirit. I want to talk to a demon, that I may go to her, inquire for her. He couldn't get God to tell him what to do about the Philistines. Why? Because he's still this bitter, nasty person who can't quit hating David and living his life to kill David. Saul won't go near him anymore. He's ruined his relationship with every godly person. God's a mile away from him. And he says, all right, well, I need to know what to do anyway. I'm going to go talk to a demon. Let me go see if I can get let me go see if I can get this witch to bring up Samuel. Saul, buddy, this is not the best idea, okay? Maybe you should get right with God instead of trying to manipulate your life into blessings again. Instead of trying to fix your life by sinful methods. I meet and I know many manipulators. I'm so straightforward and dumb. I don't know when somebody's trying to manipulate me or not. Because I just don't. My mind just kind of doing this. I don't understand. They're being tricky. I don't understand. I don't get all that stuff. I'm not that smart. I listen, but when I hear afterward, they're trying to manipulate this, and I look at, the guy will try to get a raise at work through this and that, and he tries to buy the boss beer, and he tries to go do this and that. He'll do everything except for work hard. You ever see someone like that? They'll try to do every single thing in the world to try to get a raise and to get a promotion, except for work hard. And they'll try to do everything they can to marry the right person, except for be the right kind of person. And they'll do everything they can to be spiritual, except for do what the Bible says. Like, I'm too simple to try to make everything so complicated. I got to figure out how to make a living. I got to do this. I got this. There's a special deal. And if I do this, I can make $1 million in 2 weeks. And I'll do this. And I get this special way. And there's a special thing. And I can make $1 million. And I can do this. And how about you just go to work and work a job and save your money and be wise to your money? Well, no, I got to do something else. I got to find it. Stop. Relax. Stop for a sec. You know, there's a lot of simple things in life where you don't have to be so manipulative. And you don't have to be so with people, tricking everybody and sneaking in every way. And look, if you get the blessing of God in your life, you're not going to have enough room in your barn. Just please God. God's going to bless you. And all that ways acknowledge Him. He shall direct your paths. Your life would be so much better if you quit trying to manipulate a good life and just please God. Just please God. He can take care of you better than you can take care of yourself. You mess yourself up trying to do everything your way. And so when you're not thinking right, you decide to manipulate instead, because you can't get the blessings of God in your life. And you're going to sneak your way into a blessed life. And you know what? You're not being very logical. And so don't try to manipulate what you can't get through the blessings of God. And so, just review. Things you do when you're thinking crazy. You become overreactive. You become very self-centered. You are turned against the most important spiritual people in your life. And you try to manipulate what you can't get through blessings. Okay, so nobody in our church is probably there. We have good folks and all that stuff. Can you please remember this? So when you become, I had so many words that I thought, no, somebody's going to not think it's a good church word. And so many, I thought dumb. I thought of the word stupid, but I couldn't spell it. And I thought a whole bunch of words that aren't politically correct anymore. Mentally challenged. When you're not thinking clearly, and it makes perfect sense, when your elevator doesn't stop at every floor, when your picnic basket is missing some sandwiches, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to say to it, okay? When the lights are on and nobody's home, whatever the situation where you're not thinking clearly, can you say, the devil's trying to turn me against those I love. I'm being very self-centered. I'm trying to manipulate everything. I am being overreactive. I need to just spend some time with God and get right with God. You know, when all this, Saul never just went to God and said, God, what am I doing? Lord, is David really trying to destroy my kingdom? God said, no. He could have saved years of wandering in the wilderness and looking over his shoulder and throwing spears at his kids and things. He could have done that. If he just said, I'm wicked. If he just said, Samuel, you're right. I didn't obey. I kept the sheep. Listen, when you're like that, just remember there comes a time in your life you're not thinking clearly. Like Saul. And it looks so obvious to us, but to Saul, he really thought David. Even though David showed him, he went and said, yeah, David wasn't trying to do that. Went back home and the devil started stirring his evil, bitter spirit against. He couldn't forgive because he couldn't forgive. And what happened? Let's go get David. He's trying to get my kingdom. So think clearly at that point and say, I'm not thinking clearly. I've got to stop this.